Ready? Okay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Haley Moore. I am a senior here at North Carolina Central University, double majoring in English and Interdisciplinary Studies and minoring in Mass Communications. Today, my paper is titled Time's Eternal Force, the Narrative Agency of Time and Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse. It's impossible to turn back the hand of time. In Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, the second section, Time Passes, follows a large, well-off family, the Ramsay family, over 10 years across a World War I-ridden United Kingdom. Woolf's use of free indirect discourse and a third-person omniscient point of view transports the reader from the bounds of the physical world into one where time flows in a non-linear river. In the following pages, I aim to explore how time is a primary driving force in the novel and how everything is shaped by its influence. I will examine how the use of the third-person point of view decentralizes the human condition and experience, forcing the reader to become the other. Woolf begins Time Passes with the animation of nothing or darkness. It comes alive as it traverses a world seemingly devoid of human presence. It's written as a thief and something to fear. It's the boogeyman in the shadows. It seems to rear in human despair and misery. Woolf writes of nothing that, quote, nothing, it seemed, could survive the flood, the profusion of darkness, which, creeping in at keyholes and crevices, stole round window blinds, came into bedrooms, swallowed up here a jug and basin, there a bowl of red and yellow dahlias, there the sharp edges and firm bulk of a chest and drawers. End quote, page 126. Know how nothing swallows implicatures of human presence. It returns the human to darkness and starts the world anew. In this passage, decentralizing the human also decentralizes the reader. Woolf uses free indirect discourse to force the human into a corner and allows the non-human to take over. The flood of details separated by commas illustrates the technique. Free indirect discourse puts the reader at a distance from the text and the narrator. The distance isn't quite inside or outside of the novel. It puts the reader in a peculiar predicament of nothing. It forces the reader to decentralize themselves and allow the non-human to be central. This results in the reader becoming a witness with the novel. Woolf also decentralizes the human experience by putting major plot points of the character into brackets at the end of each paragraph. It reads as if Woolf treats her characters as asides or as something not to care about. After telling the reader what happens to the character, the story continues like an unstoppable current of water. This continuance of the story, despite the human death and despair, signifies how humans treat each other during strife. One would think that Woolf is punishing or blaming the humans in her novel, but she uses the unstoppable force of nature to illustrate how desensitized human behavior is. Interestingly, the death of the Ramsay matriarch and character with whom the reader spends the most time, Mrs. Ramsay, is the first of the aside deaths. The effect of her death shocks the reader with how sudden it comes. With the death of Mrs. Ramsay, the Ramsay clan fall victim to the will of time and nature begins to change. Once again, the night comes alive and terrorizes the humans. It's written as being a storm, making the sea unsteady and trees plunge and sway. Within the storm, misery and despair ravage the human. Woolf writes of the night that, quote, the nights are now full of window and destruction. The trees plunge and bend, and their leaves fly helter-skelter until the lawn is plastered with them, and they lie in gutters and choke rain pipes and scatter damp paths. Also, the sea tosses itself and breaks itself, and should any sleeper fancying that he might find on the beach an answer to his doubts, a sharer of his solitude, throw off his bedclothes and go down by himself to walk on the sand. No image with semblance of serving and divine promptitude comes readily to hand, bringing the night to order and making the world reflect the compass of the soul. The hand dwindles in his hand, the voice bellows in his ear. Almost it would appear that it is useless and such confusing to ask the night the questions as to what and why and wherefore, which tempt the sleeper from his bed to seek an answer. Mr. Ramsay, stumbling along a passage one dark morning, stretched his arms out but Mrs. Ramsey, having died rather suddenly the night before, his arms, though stretched out, remained rather empty. End quote, page 128. Wolfe doesn't name the person who was afflicted by night until the brackets tell us. As a result, this gives the reader the assumption that the night can happen to anyone. By only using pronouns as identifiers, there's an implication that the afflicted is everyone suffering from war and its effects. Wolfe continues the stories of the Ramsey within the brackets and continues the story of the world outside of it. Once again, the distance between the reader and the story comes into play. The reader is grouped into the night along with the rest of the world, and the Ramsey's fate is singular and isolated. The positioning of time passes within the novel holds importance too. Nestled between two dialogue and character-focused sections, time passes provide a reprieve from the human. It pushes the plot forward by highlighting the Ramsey's fate, but it also shows the progression of war and human suffering within it. This shows the multifaceted ways of time and how everyone experiences it. While the whole world is suffering due to World War I, families are torn apart, desensitized, and broken due to human treatment of each other. The juxtaposition of two character-focused sections provides evidence of the world's suffering outside of the novel. By doing this, Wolfe shows that the Ramsey story is one of many within the world, and perhaps the world's suffering is greater than the Ramsey suffering. Wolfe has used time in a revolutionary way that hasn't been done before. With the release of her books, Wolfe pushes back against the traditional romanticism and Victorian literature of the past and ushers in a new era of literature, the novel and modernism. While the story of To the Lighthouse might be simple, the historical and living context behind it is not. The genius of following a wealthy family before, during, and after World War I shows how war tears everyone apart from family to family. With her writing, Wolfe argued that the everyday family, person, or subject deserves a story. Not every story needs to have a hero or a villain or to be a great epic. The quotidian is just as, if not more, important than traditional hero stories. Thank you.